Ayub know that Jay and Brad were staying together? How did he know that? He says we split up because it was busy. It was so busy. How can you say, I don't know how he knows him, I don't know how he knows him, I don't know how he knows him, oh, we met them in a coffee shop. Brad says that Ayub's nickname was Johnny Vegas. But listen to what Ayub's got to say, and this is something that Ayub's never said before. It's like, you're all together. No one stood up and asked for the key. No one lost their key. Nobody split up. You were all together, sitting at Magic Mike's. SLATER Inquest Part 1. As we know, there's going to be several parts to this because there is a lot to get through. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, we are back again with another interesting SLATER video. As we do know, today was the first day of the inquest. And do we have a lot to get through? Oh, yes, we do. We've got new information, lies, contradictions. Look, there is a lot to get through, ladies and gentlemen, but I don't want to spend a whole load of time waffling away. So we're going to keep it short and simple, starting with Brad. Brad was the first person to tell his side of the story. And there were contradictions. There were things that Brad said that just don't make any sense, especially when you hear what Lucy has to say, especially when you hear what Ayub has to say. It just don't make any sense. But there's one thing that Brad and Ayub both say, which has never been mentioned before. What we can say at this point is Brad was the first person to mention it. I do want to kind of start off by giving a general overview of the inquest, the first part of the inquest. Tomorrow, we're going to get a conclusion. We're not too sure if more is going to be said, but the biggest highlight is the fact that everything, as I've already suggested over the past couple of videos, is pointing to Brandon. And right now, we can say it's just not looking good for him. One thing I got from this inquest, ladies and gentlemen, that these guys come together to corroborate a certain part of the story. That part of the story is going to the Airbnb, which still doesn't make sense. And we're going to get into why it doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. In fact, Brad's complicates it even more. But literally, based on everything that was said in this inquest today, ladies and gentlemen, the main point that we're really trying to get across today through this inquest, and I'm telling you now, it was probably their only point that they wanted to get across. They don't care about telling the truth in order to get justice for Jay. They are still in that inquest trying to cover their tracks. And what I mean, again, if you actually listen back to everything that was being said in that inquest, the main point that Ayub, Lucy, and Brad was really trying to get across was that Jay left that Airbnb alive. Focus was to establish that Ayub is in the clear. Ayub has got nothing to do with whatever happened to Jay. If anything did happen to Jay, everything was okay with him. He was good. He was good when he left. Nothing wrong with him whatsoever. He wasn't distressed. He wasn't running away from anything. He wasn't delusional. He was happy. He was laughing. Yeah, everything was cool with Jay when he left that Airbnb. That was literally the main point that they all were trying to get across in that inquest today. And that's because they're forced to protect Ayub. They have to ensure that nothing happens to Ayub. And why is that? It's because Ayub's the one that's helped them cover this up in order to protect Brandon. They can't say anything negative or bad or make it look like Ayub could be a suspect in any type of way. Why? Because they know who the real perpetrator is. Ayub is doing Brandon a favor. Rocky, Stephen Rockass, is doing Ayub a favor, who's more or less doing Brandon the favor. That's another reason why Rocky didn't turn up. It's got nothing to do with Rocky. He's literally just doing Ayub a favor. But the only problem he now faces is that he will be an accessory to covering up the murder or the death of Jay SLATER if anything is found further down the road. Because it can be proven that the video that they have of Rocky sleeping in a car is fabricated. But literally, that is what they were extremely adamant on throughout all of their statements. All making sure that Jay willingly went to that Airbnb. No one forced him. We didn't go with him. He went by himself and he left willingly. He went the wrong way willingly. He wasn't scared. He had nothing to worry about. No one was chasing him. He was happy. He was joking on the phone. So we have no idea why he would have walked all the way to the viewpoint, which would have taken him 25 to 30 minutes. And then from there, when Brad spoke to him, he would have decided to walk off road. Within a space of maybe 5 to 10 minutes, he's found himself lying in this ditch cut by a cactus. He phones Lucy and tells her he feels like he's going to die. He's worried about the cactus cut. And then from there, he decides to send his location via screenshot to Lucy and Brad, or to just Lucy, or to Brandon, or to whoever he sent the screenshots to. But he sent them the WhatsApp one, the Snapchat one of his pinged location. And his pinged location showed him to be on a path near the road. So why the need for Jay to continue walking on the path to a point where he needs to go into a ravine, continue walking through that ravine for 2.5 hours until he eventually falls off a cliff or falls off the edge or loses his footing or whatever they say happens. Again, let's dive into this because I don't want this to drag. We're going to have several parts breaking down the inquest. Make sure you guys hit the like button. Again, we've got day 2 tomorrow. We're not too sure what's going to happen on day 2, which means that's going to be more videos. And based on everything that was said today, oh my God, ladies and gentlemen, we could be here for another 10 to 15 videos breaking this down. And that's something that I don't want to do. I honestly don't want to do that. I really was hoping for an outcome today. All we've got is lies, contradictions, things that have never been said before, don't make any sense. And we're going to dive into them right now, ladies and gentlemen. Let's check this out. Oh, as we can see, ladies and gentlemen, the inquest, I mean, there's so much to get through. We are going to be here for ages. So just to kind of give a few positives off the top, it was good to hear that Warren and Debbie walked in with a barrister, someone that was there to ask the right questions. Now, at this point, we don't even know if the right questions were being asked. There are some things that were published, but not everything's been published. It doesn't seem like the barrister had much time with Ayub by the looks of what's being published. But again, we could be wrong. More questions, more things could have been said that haven't been published as of yet. But the positive news is that they had a barrister, someone that was fighting for them, someone in their corner. And that's what's really important here. The barrister's name is Lois Norris. Pick up Lois, thank her for helping the family because that's what's needed. They need someone in their corner that can tackle and object to this BS, yeah, because that's what Lucy, Brad, and Ayub have come together and given us. You can tell Brad and Ayub, you can tell those two, and I said this from months and months and months ago through Rachel, because even Rachel was corroborating Ayub's side of the story early on when she said that Brad stood up and asked for the key. Remember, one question I asked at that point is why and how does Ayub know that Jay and Brad were staying at the same accommodation? Why didn't he think they were staying with Lucy or staying with Brandon or staying at Jay's cousins? Like, how did Ayub know that Jay and Brad were staying together? How did he know that? But here we are again, a whole year later, with a different side to the story. Nothing mentioned about a key. Nothing mentioned about, oh yeah, I asked Jay for the key and Jay gave me the key and I went back to the apartment by myself. There's no mention of that by Brad. There's no mention of that even from Ayub when Ayub starts talking about after the NRG festival and leading up to Jay getting into the car. There's no mention of anyone exchanging keys. Even Brad, the way he tries to make it make sense for why Jay went to the Airbnb doesn't make sense. But here we have, in this inquest, both of these people, Brad and Ayub, mentioning the same spot, and that spot's only been mentioned once, never by Ayub prior to this, but it was mentioned by Ayub today, and it was mentioned by Brad before Ayub. So why didn't Ayub mention this before? Ayub's done live streams. Ayub done a podcast, for fuck's sake. He done a podcast with Cullen, which he done 5-6 months after Jay had been buried. His story didn't even mention what he mentioned today. There are even multiple contradictions in the story that he gave to Cullen on that podcast in comparison to what he said today. How? Anyway, we're going to get there. Okay, cool. So let's start right here. Instantly, Brad throws Brandon under the bus. Look what Brad says here. He says, he, Jay, and Lucy arrived in Tenerife. He and Jay put their bags in the apartment and then they went out. They were drinking until 5 a.m. This is the first night they landed. They met up with Brandon Hodson, who had been friends with the two other men, Ayub Qasim and Stephen Rockas, known as Rocky, for some time. So he adds for some time. See, Ayub makes a confession in this inquest. Ayub says in this inquest that he's known Brandon's brother longer. It's all starting to come together now. It's all starting to make a lot of sense now. And this is Brad's way of it making sense for us by throwing Brandon under the bus and letting us know he's known Ayub and Stephen for quite some time. Not only did we have Ayub on multiple live streams and earlier on in the case saying that he's good mates with Brandon and that's the mate he knows Jay through and blah, blah, blah. We have Brandon telling Mark Williams Thomas the total opposite. He doesn't know Ayub at all. I just met him passing in a coffee shop. But here we have in the inquest Ayub telling us that he does know Brandon but he's known his brother for longer. He's never mentioned that before. But anyway, we're going to get to that, ladies and gentlemen. It's just clear as day that Brad, under pressure, is more or less throwing Brandon under the bus. Brad goes on to say here that the group went out for drinks at about 6 p.m. So this would have been on the 16th. This would have been 3 hours before Jay's bank account declines. 3.5 hours before Brandon Hodgson asked Jay to get him that 2-ton out. Remember, we can't forget the information that was told to us in the initial inquest. They then met Brandon and Lucy to go to the music festival. So Brandon and Lucy was together. Now, I've always said to you, ladies and gentlemen, for months and months and months and months and months, that Lucy and Brandon work together. They come as a team. So there was no way Lucy could have ever have said Abe was a stranger. She could have never have said that. Because if Brandon knows Abe, it means Lucy knows Abe. She might not know Abe the way Brandon knows Abe, but she knows who he is. She knows him well enough to not call him a stranger, okay? Clear as day. But she was adamant, even days later when speaking to the media, that they're two strangers, she doesn't know them, and she feels that they should both be interrogated because it doesn't make sense how they were deemed irrelevant within 24 hours. Well, it doesn't, does it? But Brad says we were all together all evening until we got to the festival, then we split up. We were together all evening until we got to the festival, and then we split up. He says we split up because it was busy. It was so busy. That's weird. Because of all the video footage we have from 10, 11, 12:30, 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the morning, you're all together in the festival. Brandon, Brad, and Jay. So there's one point in this inquest where Brad actually says that Jay wasn't able to stand up. And that's clearly the moment where Jay had his t-shirt off, where he put his arm around Brandon. Lucy come down the stairs. You were all together at that point, and that would have been in between the hours of 12:30 to 1:30 in the morning. So where did you split up? Where did you split up because it was busy? Makes no sense. Brad says, then Brandon says to him, Jay's been kicked out. What? How can Brad, Brandon, and Jay all be together and he not know that Jay's been kicked out? Make that make sense. Why does Brandon have to tell Brad? Brandon, out of all people, Brandon has to tell Brad that Jay's been kicked out. So Jay gets kicked out. We don't know why. He wasn't up to mischief. He was just waved out of his face. His t-shirt dropped on the floor. He went to pick it up. He took a bit of time picking it up. He eventually put his arm around Brandon, asking for help. Clearly, Brandon shrugged him off and walked over to Lucy. He was coming down the stairs. Brad, you were standing right there with your phone and you were filming. So why did Jay get kicked out? If anything, based on that footage, Brandon and Lucy, they left Jay with you, Brad. So explain. It makes no sense how Jay got kicked out and Brandon told Brad that Jay got kicked out. After Jay got kicked out, Brad says he had gone out to try and get him back in, but the security wouldn't let him back in, based on what he's saying here. They wouldn't let him back in. It could only be the security, right? Okay, why wouldn't they let him back in? Okay, so at this point, let's think logically. Your friend's best friend has been thrown out and he's not allowed back in. What do? You go and get your belongings and you leave as well. So if Jay was outside by himself, what was he doing outside by himself? How long was he outside by himself before the friends decided to leave and link back up with him? It says here, inside the club, Jay was so drunk he couldn't stand up. He could only be referring to the footage that we saw of Jay when he had his t-shirt off, clearly. But when the group met up outside, he was in a better state. He was in a better state. How could he have been in a better state? 9 times out of 10, if you're feeling finito inside, the moment you step outside, gone. You're gone. Finished. There is no getting lively again. That wind is going to hit you and you won't even be able to keep your eyes open. Doesn't make any sense. How Jay was so drunk that he couldn't even stand up, but the moment he went outside, boom, he was back to normal again. Yeah, he was coherent. He was making his own decisions. He went off with these 2 guys, because that's what this is leading up to, ladies and gentlemen. That's what Brad's narrative is leading up to. We saw Jay all waved out of his face, but one of the things that these guys have come to do is make it look like everything was normal. Everything was normal. That's the picture that they've been trying to paint. That is the picture that they realized they needed to paint after about 2 or 3 days of this situation taking place. They needed to paint a picture that made it look like everything was normal And Jay willingly went off with people that he didn't know. And unfortunately, we don't know what happened thereafter, other than telling you that we spoke to him and he was in the mountains. Yeah, he left the Airbnb. He was laughing and joking when he left the Airbnb. We can tell you that for sure. Other than that, I have no idea why the guy went off road. I have no idea why the guy continued to walk through a ravine. I have no idea why the guy didn't call a cab. I don't know why he didn't go back to the Airbnb. I don't know why he didn't wait for us after sending us his pinged location. I don't know why he would have continued walking for another 2.5 hours to fall off a cliff. I have no idea why. But again, he's just literally stating he was in a better state. He wasn't as bad as he was when he was inside. Inside, everyone is clams together and you get out. Inside, everyone's clams together and you get out. Well, by the time Jay was waved out of his face with his t-shirt off, you can clearly see that the place had already been dying down. That meant people had already been leaving, going to other nightclubs. Nobody was clamped together at that point, Brad. You are making it look like something it's not. Even when Brad rates Jay on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of how waved he was, Brad gives him a 6. Based on the footage, I would give Jay closer to an 8, 9. I don't think Jay would have been able to consume any more drink or any more drugs before falling to a coma. Like literally. The next destination for Jay was falling to sleep, finding a corner, throwing up. How was Brad giving him a 6, making it look like everything was normal? He definitely wasn't normal. If he was normal, he would have taken a selfie. He would have taken a selfie at the B&B. Jay never took no pictures of himself in the B&B, no pictures of himself outside the Airbnb, no pictures of himself in the mountains. He didn't send a picture or a video of himself when he was trying to call for help, sending them his screenshot location. Even at that point, he could have taken a picture of himself lying in a ditch saying, "Oh, guys, come and help me, man. Look at the state of me." Like, nothing whatsoever. He just got up and continued walking to fall off a cliff. No. Now, this bit here is interesting, ladies and gentlemen, and is a contradiction to what's being said by other people in this case, because Brad says here that Lucy came out of the club at 3:25 a.m. That's really specific. That's really specific for Brad to say. 3:25. So Lucy left at 3:25. And the group, see, they keep referring to the group. Who's in this group? It can't just be Ayab, Rocky, Brandon, Lucy, Brad, and Jay. Is that the group? Is that the gang that he keeps referring to as group? Because Lucy came out of the club at 3:25 in the morning, and the group then went to a club called Sugar Reef. It says Ayab and Rocky weren't with the group in the festival. So again, this is Brad corroborating what Ayab has said. Ayab's the only person that has said this, that he wasn't in the festival with them. Brad is the one that's saying it. Yeah, them two weren't with us in the festival. They didn't come to the festival. They were just always out on the strip. Jay sent a Snapchat to Brad in which he said he had taken a watch. Jay then sent another Snapchat to Brad in which he said he was going back to Ayab and Steven's Airbnb and sleeping there. So this is what Brad is saying before we've even heard what Ayab's got to say, before we've even heard what Lucy's got to say. What picture is Brad trying to paint here? Make it make sense why Jay would have sent Brad a Snapchat to tell him he's staying at Ayab and Rocky's Airbnb. Why? Why would he do that? But then Brad later contradicts this whole statement. He later contradicts this whole statement, and so does Ayab. And on that basis, I have to ask if the barrister would have picked up on that. Did the barrister not notice these contradictions that were being read out in the courtroom? This is Brad basically saying he trusted Ayab and Rocky. Although in the earlier statement, Brad said he was worried, but he says when asked about in court today how he feels about Ayab and Rocky, he says, they were with us for 3 days. Were they now? So they were with you for 3 days, and Lucy had the audacity of calling them two strangers that Jay met that night. Jay met them that night. And then later when Mark Williams Thomas basically stuck it on her and said, no, Brandon knows them, Lucy, stop lying. She denied that, kept denying it, kept denying it, kept denying it, and then basically said, oh, he knows them through meeting them at a coffee shop. How can you say, I don't know how he knows them, I don't know how he knows them, I don't know how he knows them, oh, we met them in a coffee shop. What? And now we've got Brad saying we knew them for about 3 days. The same thing that Ayab told us. And he was the only one that told us that. The only person. So what is this starting to look like, ladies and gentlemen? starting to look like Abe and Brad are corroborating the same story. The same thing that I said was done when Rachel was corroborating Abe's side of the story back when she was running the Facebook groups, when she said that Brad took the key. But there's more, ladies and gentlemen, that prove Abe and Brad have 100% spoken, and they have scripted Brad with information that he must say. Things like, I trusted Abe and Rocky. They were with us for 3 days. I trusted them as much as Jay. I didn't think anything of it. So he didn't think anything of Jay telling him he's going to stay with them. That's kind of what he's indicating, making it look like, no, Abe and Rocky are good guys, man. There's no reason to look at them as guilty ones. They never done anything to Jay. But Abe is covering for Brandon. Rocky is covering for Abe, who's covering for Brandon. Bradley, who knows Brandon personally and clearly knows the influence that his older brother may have, is also covering for Abe to ensure that they cover for Brandon. Do you understand how this works now, ladies and gentlemen? Now, he mentions the Snapchat call, and this is something that Josh mentions. Remember, in the last inquest, Josh mentions the video call Brad and Jay would have had. He witnessed. He was there with Brad. See, it's funny how Brad doesn't mention Josh. Not at all. Doesn't mention him. In fact, he says he knows nothing about the knives. He knows nothing about them. He doesn't know anything about Jay having 2 knives. That is what Brad says. But apparently, Jay sent that message to Josh, and Josh was with Brad. And Josh, for some reason, didn't tell Brad. Didn't tell him, nah. Didn't tell the Spanish police either, nah. What he decided to do was delete the alleged photo or video of Jay with these 2 knives, wait till he got back to the UK, and then he's going to phone the Lancs police and tell them all about it with no evidence to prove it. And then he's going to turn up to the inquest, a person that doesn't even know Jay, with no evidence to even back what he's saying in court, and he's going to give us fabricated conspiracy. He's going to give us fabricated conspiracy. And we was meant to lap that all up. So are you saying that any one of us content creators can just go to the inquest, stand up in the inquest, and give our theories as to what we believe happens to Jay? Is that what you're telling me? Because that is more or less what Josh Forshaw done at the last inquest, with nothing to back it up. And here we are at the second inquest, and no one's even mentioning him. No one's even bringing up what he said to ask Brad. Tell me about Josh Forshaw, Brad. Nah, can't do that. Okay, so there's a few things that I've had to skip that we're going to have to get back to in another video, because there's so many things that we have to get through, ladies and gentlemen, and I want this to make sense for this video right now. We're going to jump to the barrister questioning Brad, because she questioned Brad, and the barrister basically said, Brad confirms that it was Brandon who introduced the group. Again, we don't know who the group is. The group to Abe and Stephen. At this point, Stephen's just been thrown in a deep end. He is just fully in it. He is Abe's right-hand man. They just got to go along with it. Brad says that Abe's nickname was Johnny Vegas. Brad confirms Abe's nickname is Johnny Vegas. Guess what? Abe also confirms it. Abe confirms in this inquest, after lying online, we have Abe confessing in the inquest that he does go by the name, and he's got many nicknames, he says, like Baker, Quack Quack. Yeah, we know. He confirms that he is Johnny Vegas. Now, this is where it gets interesting, ladies and gentlemen, and this is where we have another cover-up, another lie. Brad says that the last time he saw Jay in person was when he, Lucy, and Brandon had gone to Magic Mike's for food. Now, bear this in mind. They've gone Magic Mike's for food. Also want you to bear in mind that Brad is saying all of this before Abe has said what he said. And Abe has clearly not heard what Brad had to say. But one thing they do know is that they have been prepping each other leading up to this. And this is the reason why we now have a new restaurant involved, getting 100% promotion on this channel. And they go by the name of Magic Mike's. Yeah, Magic Mike's, the restaurant. Never been there, never tried it, not too sure what food they've got. But we're going to endorse it for the sake of this case, right? We're going to endorse it. Magic Mike's restaurant. So Brad, Lucy, Jay, and Brandon are all at Magic Mike's together. Brad had to go and find Jay, but he found him straight away. That's what Brad says. He found him straight away. This is when Jay told Brad, I'm going to stay with these, referring to Abe and Rocky. Now make that make sense. Make that make sense. Brad, Brandon, Lucy, and Jay are at Magic Mike's, all eating dinner. And at that point, Jay says to Brad, I'm going to stay with these, referring to Abe and Rocky, which indicates that Abe and Rocky must have been there at the time of Jay saying this to Brad. Now, if they're all together at that point, why would Jay be saying to Brad in Magic Mike's that he's going to go and stay with Abe and Rocky? Why? What was the need at that point for him to go and stay with Abe and Rocky? It's like you're all together. No one stood up and asked for the key. No one lost their key. Nobody split up. You were all together, sitting at Magic Mike's, having food. And Jay whispers into Brad's ear, I'm going to go and stay at Abe's and Rocky's tonight. Sounds a bit fruity to me. But just a minute ago, didn't Brad tell us that Jay told him via Snapchat he was staying with Rocky and Abe? So what? Jay told him twice. Jay whispered into his ear whilst they were eating Magic Mike's and then sent him an extra confirmation via Snapchat to say that he's staying with Abe and Rocky again. Why? Or which one come first? No diddy. Pause. If you got it, you got it. If you didn't get it, you didn't get it. I mean, it's just not making any sense. I just want to skip to Abe's part of this. Let's go to Abe. Timeline of Jay's movement on final night out revealed. Abe says that Jay arrived outside Sugar Reef and was inhaling balloons. But here we have Jay walking down the strip by himself, taking balloons, and he bumps into Abe around 4 o'clock in the morning. Around 4 a.m., as Sugar Reef was closing, the group went to Tramp's Club. Now, Tramp's Club, as we remember what Mark Williams Thomas told us, has no CCTV inside or outside. So on that basis, this can't even be verified. But listen to what Abe's got to say, and this is something that Abe's never said before. Abe says they stayed there until about 5 o'clock in the morning, pushing to about 6 o'clock, maybe, in his own words. Then they went to Magic Mike's. They went to Magic Mike's. Abe says they went to Magic Mike's, which is right next door to Tramp's. When has Abe ever mentioned Magic Mike before? There's never been a Magic Mike prior to Brad mentioning Magic Mike. When has they ever mentioned Magic Mike's? And here we have, on the day of the inquest, Abe mentioning Magic Mike's. These guys come together and corroborated a story to make it make sense as to why Jay went to the Airbnb and as to why Jay left that Airbnb. Right, we're going to leave it there, ladies and gentlemen. Literally, there is so much more to get through. And as we've just revealed in this video, absolute BS. What's so surprising as well, ladies and gentlemen, is Abe somehow revealed a picture of Rocky sleeping in a car with Jay behind him smiling his face off. Haven't seen it. We know Abe's a fabricator. We know he makes things up. So funny how, since we've been putting pressure on the Jay in the back of the car picture, with Abe taking that picture and Abe confirming that he's got pictures of Jay in the back of the car smiling his face off, it's just so weird how on inquest day, he has got that picture ready. He's got that picture ready. Imagine, he's had a whole 13 months and he's never revealed that picture to us. Never. Never! For what reason? Doesn't make any sense how you would detach the audio from the visuals. Months and months and months later, you reveal the visuals of Rocky sleeping in the car. What's extremely weird about that is you guys, the subs, the guys that have been invested in seeking the truth for Jay, you believe there was someone that was at the back. People was messaging me saying, Wax, there's someone at the back of the car. There's someone sitting in the back. Another thing that people were adamant on that I do need to apologize for is the fact that Abe was Johnny Vegas. I had a number of people DMing me telling me that Abe is 100% Johnny Vegas because they bought narcotics off him whilst they were in Tenerife. Now, it's not that I didn't believe them, but I was extremely biased towards believing Brandon Hodgson was Johnny Vegas. Ayo confirms it. He is Johnny Vegas. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we're leaving it there. We've got plenty more Jay Slater videos uploading, so you don't want to go anywhere. Just slap that like button. I need to know exactly what you guys are thinking. Leave all of those comments, all of those thoughts, all of those opinions down below in the comment section. Subscribe to the channel if we're newly watching. Turn those notification bells on. I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one.